On. Welcome back to another caffeinated conversation on Coffee with Convery, where clarity and careers meet with personal purpose. And success isn't just defined by titles, but by trailblazing, tinkering, and tenacity. Today, we're about to pour a double shot of inspiration with someone who is just part strategist, part disruptor, and all in on helping diverse voices get funded, seen, and heard. Meet Laura Scarlett Martin. She's the top 0.1% LinkedIn influencer, venture partner, sorry, fractional CMO, global finance thought leader, and yes, a stand-up comic as well. She's coached hundreds of founders, scaled startups from Sketchpad to seed round, and is on a mission to make VC more inclusive and tech more human. From boardrooms to the comedy stage, Laura is defining what leadership it looks like and helping Gen Z and Millennial dreamers define their own version of success in work and life. Whether you're a student founder, a tech savvy creative, or someone still figuring it out, this episode is for you. Laura, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I jived with you so much when we got to chat at the University of Windsor event. So it's lovely to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you too. And I'm so excited to continue this conversation live for the audience. So, why don't we start with some rapid fire questions? What is your superpower?
My superpower is being a super connector in a sense, and also being able to put together ideas very quickly, like translating nerd to money, I would say. Like I
Yeah.
understand really, I'll get scientific founders to explain what they're doing, and it might take them an hour or two to explain it clearly. And then I'll figure out how to spit that out in 2 minutes in a way that's more layman's.
Awesome. I love that. Favorite subject in high school?
Ooh, political science.
Political science. Well, we all start somewhere in some sort of job. I started scrubbing pots and dishes. What was your very first job?
I have been an entrepreneur since forever. So my
Okay.
very first job was a cat sitter and dog walker. Way better gig than babysitting.
Oh yeah, they don't talk back.
They don't, no. They tell no
Um,
secrets.
yeah, exactly. What's one app you can't live without?
Perplexity.
Perplexity?
Perplexity.ai.
Yeah,
Unsurprisingly, it was an AI tool. Yeah.
yeah. I don't. I've looked at it. I haven't used it. I'll be honest, but I've seen it.
It's a
Um,
yeah, it's
good.
more of an answers. Like ChatGPT is good for blah 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 content.
Yeah.
Perplexity is excellent for research.
Okay. Good clarity for our listeners and for me too. I just learned something. If you had to describe yourself in one word, what would you say?
Dynamic.
Dynamic. And since this is Coffee with Convery, what's your go-to coffee or tea order?
Either a matcha latte or a dirty chai latte.
I love it. I love it. It shows the variety and diversity of who you are. So I cannot wait to jump into this. So let's go into a little bit about how you got it going on and starting. You've gone from a mortgage boss to an AI strategist to a venture partner to a comedy producer. What's the thread that ties all these experiences together for you?
I think just not being put in a box and really understanding that I am a dynamic human and what my first career was, which was sort of something I fell into. And I think a lot of people, life and comfort leads them to their first career. And after they
Yeah.
gain a level of expertise and a little bit more worldliness, in my case, I went back to university as a mature student and studied psychology and cognitive science but then said, okay, I'm going to go back to the mortgage industry because I'm comfortable there. That's where I can make money. But ultimately, I realized that I'm always going to be an entrepreneur and I'm probably going to have another 10 companies before it's all said and done. So I've just sort of accepted my fate as entrepreneur and innovator and connector. And I just do all those things. And lately I started to delve more into my creative pursuits, a la comedy and bass guitar because I think life, like we're humans that have diverse interests, and I think COVID gave me time and space to pick up
Mm.
hobbies and to sort of check in with myself and say, hey, what happened to fun, Laura?
Yeah.
Work, work,
No,
work.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I love that. And your journey has also included launching startups, mentoring founders, and now working intentionally in AI and VC. What's been your boldest leap, and what advice do you have for some of our listeners who are listening and may be afraid to make that first big move?
Hmm. I'd say my first big leap was being a founder,
Okay.
going from a salaried, more or less, a salaried employee to being a founder and CEO. That's not the same as COO. You might feel like you're running the company, but you don't have the whole weight of the company's success on your shoulders. So that's really a make or break experience when you're leading a team of 30, 40 people and you are having to, be the breadwinner to bring in the clients, to make sure that everything's executed well. And that was really 24/7 craziness. So I think I really just pushed myself the furthest as a startup founder of with a seven-figure contract to try and really deliver on that contract. But after that, I really thought about, okay, that was an incredible experience.
Mhm.
Where do I want to go from here? Do I want to do that again? Or like what would I do differently? And I started to notice the funding gap, whereby only 2% of VC funds go to women and less than 1% to people of color. That
Wow.
number has been pretty much the same for the last 20 years. So like for all we've said and done around DEI, like nothing has changed. And understanding network effects, I realized like it's just a systemic problem. If the check writers are mostly white men
Mhm.
from Ivy League universities, their friends are white men from Ivy League universities, and so on and so forth. And
Yep.
everything relationships. It's not even like they set out to be like, I'm not going to give checks to these people. It's just not the people that were in their network. So I thought, okay, if not me, then who? I have this experience with investment already through the real estate and mortgage side. And I had some entrepreneurship experience. And I thought, okay, maybe I can be a check writer or at least facilitate checks getting written to diverse founders.
Amazing. I love what you're doing in that space and shaking it up. And it's startling to think that those are the percentages. Those are so low,
It
so
is.
low.
Like, how could we solve all of the world's problems with that same set of thinking? Obviously not everyone thinks the same from those demographics, but kind of
Yeah.
to some degree.
No, 100%,
Yeah,
100%.
yeah.
And along those lines, what do you think needs to change in the investment world to make more space for women and BPOC leaders?
Well, I think it's the model is tricky, like to
Okay.
raise a fund, you need to know people with deep pockets that would be willing to invest in you. So having more open-mindedness, and maybe some more philanthropic ends. I don't think that the government is necessarily the answer to these types of things, like especially in Canada specifically. BDC is the biggest venture capital institution. So
Yeah.
literally the government is cutting most of the checks here in Canada, and it's very hard to fundraise here in Canada because of the sheepishness of investors to try new things or write big tests or take big risks on early stage companies. So I think we need more people that are willing to invest in early stage founders and more people that are willing to take their inheritances and family offices and connections and say, I want to start directing this to more female founders or femtech initiatives or whatever SDG goals you want. But I think that generally startups and venture capital have shown outsized proportions in like public companies and the formation of public companies and the biggest public companies. So for instance, like Meta was venture backed and so on, right?
Hmm.
So we need people that are in the investment world to start calling it out and saying, okay, what does our portfolio look like? How can we change this? And not in like an affirmative action sort of way, but like what systems can we put in place so that we're not accidentally filtering out diverse founders. Like for instance, Indigenous founders
Yeah.
might have a really different way of communicating. They might have something different in terms of traction. You might need to sort of manage your expectations a little bit differently.
100%. And we need more Lauras in the world that think your way, I'll tell you that
Yeah, you
much.
need the
So
cojones to do it.
that's right. You gotta.
Yeah.
So obviously inclusion is not just a value for you, it's also a business strategy as well. What's a story or a win that reminds you why ED&I matters more than ever in entrepreneurship?
Oh, well, I mean, I work with a company founder of Nunifab, which is
Hmm.
called something else now. But her name's Cynthia, and Cynthia created a biopolyol, which is basically polyols are 98% of all things like adhesives and paints and
Okay.
the foam in your car and your chair right now. It's like in everything. So, but generally it's like chemical or petroleum based.
Yeah.
So she was building affordable housing in Nunavut. And in doing so, she was working with these really harsh building materials herself.
Yeah.
And she's a Black woman she's like Canadian Nigerian. So she's
Yeah.
half, but so she's working up there and like dealing with these really harsh chemicals and they're making her skin itchy. And she's like, oh God, there's got to be a better way. So she just rolls up her chemical engineering sleeves and makes one that performs better in
What?
every way. Plus is from flax and canola oil. So it's like a natural ingredient that Canada has so much of. In fact, we mostly throw it out. So we have so much of it. So it's like check, 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 check. Not only is this green and sustainable
Yeah.
and upcycling and helping the farmers and helping the indigenous people and helping everyone, it's like she is totally not the person you'd expect to do this. If you looked at her, your stereotype of her might be that maybe she's like a nurse or a teacher, but she's this totally brilliant person that completely undersells herself because she's just really humble. And I think that she's wonderful for that, but she also is often overlooked for that. So I
Yeah.
think it's a really good example of like someone that, the book does not match the cover at all.
Yeah.
And she is often overlooked and probably not taken seriously enough. But for me, I see her for who she is, which is a brilliant person. And I was able to sort of do a bit of a spit shine on her pitch deck
Good.
and her pitch and sort of, again, translate that nerd to money
Yep.
and say, okay, cool. This is how investors want to hear this story. And
Amazing.
then she was able to raise over $2 million. Ta-da.
That's awesome. I love
I
that
think she
story.
probably could have done that without me, but I think it was good that she had a team behind her too.
100%. I think a lot of times we get caught up in our own head too, or our own persona of who we are and don't realize
Yeah.
that someone like you can coach them into that space where they're
And
successful.
I'm just one small stepping stone on her journey. She was supported by the Black Founders Network, by Nobellum, by like other, I think also York University. Like there's all these different Black
Yeah.
tech incubators that did have a hand in helping her as well. So
Amazing.
because these programs existed, she got connected with like mentors like myself, as well as like smaller funding opportunities. But I find
Absolutely.
like these accelerator programs, they're only going to give you like five, $10,000 and kind of got to do most of the work yourself.
Gotcha. So let's talk personal brand. A lot of my listeners here, they hear the words, they know they have to have a brand on LinkedIn, they know they have to develop their own sort of value proposition. What advice could you give to some young professionals trying to build their online brand now without feeling fake or cringy?
I love this question because I think that building my own personal brand has been the secret sauce to my own success. And I'm gonna go back a little bit
Sure.
to when I decided I was going to build my personal brand. And that was in my last year at University of Toronto. I was in a positive psychology lecture. And we were studying people that were savants and innovators, the people that changed the world, made the light bulb, electricity, the airplane, all that good stuff. And so we were talking about these people and what is their mindset and what is it that propelled them to this greatness. And it was simply two things. It was an unshakable belief that they could. So in the example of Edison with the light bulb, there was over 1,000 experiments. His lab burned down. Nothing stopped him. He kept, in fact, he did better once his lab burned down, incidentally, because he kind of started from scratch. But this unshakable belief that you could,
Yeah.
and two was the consistent action towards that goal over time.
Gotcha.
Just
Consistency. Yeah.
consistent action over time
Yeah.
on that goal. So I thought to myself, what is it? What is this unshakable belief I can have, and what are the steps I can take on a day-to-day basis? And I thought, well, and this is back in 2018, 2015 or something.
Yeah.
So influencers were kind of a thing, not as much as today, but they were a thing, I think. And so I thought, well, why can't I be a LinkedIn influencer? Why can't I be an influencer in the financial field? Because I think as someone that's in my 20s and a woman of color in finance, I might need a little bit of an edge. I might need to try a
You
little
think?
bit harder to get people on side with the fact that yes, I am very capable of managing your multi-million-dollar mortgage, and I could be trusted, and I'm knowledgeable in these things. So I wanted to be a thought leader on LinkedIn, and I wanted to be like a dominant influence in the field, so that no one could sort of downplay my intellect and ability.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I'm going to be a LinkedIn influencer, and what I'm going to do every day is I'm going to add people to LinkedIn. I'm going to research my domain experience and I'm going to post about it. And of course, my first few videos were incredibly awkward, where I'm fidgety and twitchy and like moving around like this and whatever. Pretty cringy looking back. But guess what? No one else was doing videos back then anyway. So I
That's fair.
still, most people are looking out, they're not looking at your flaws. They're saying, wow, she had the confidence to go do it, which most other people lack.
Yeah.
And over time, of course, a lot of my posts would get only a few likes, but it was that consistency and especially the adding of the connections and building that base. So by the time it was 2019, I had 20,000 people on LinkedIn instead of like 7,000. And
Yeah.
I would walk to a conference and everyone would know me. And I started winning awards and I started even swaying industry publications and magazines and getting opportunities to speak and all these other things. And I created like a sales funnel for almost anything I wanted to do. If I wanted to recruit, I would just add the target market that I'm recruiting and then send them messages and say, hey, let's talk. And in the conversation, that's when you sell and build a relationship, right?
Yep.
But you don't need to be like, hey, this is what I want to talk about in like a 3 paragraph thing. Please, for the love of God, keep it short. In a nutshell, that's what everyone needs to do. They need to say, okay, look, just because I don't know you yet, I can still connect with you. So
Yep.
I think that's one thing that people need to shake, where it's like, oh, LinkedIn is for people I already know or have met. It could be people that you mean to do business with, people that you admire, people that are, on your bucket list, people that could be your clients, people that could be your partners. So think about what industry you want to play in and start building out that base and then produce content in a consistent manner. Whatever you're strongest with, if you're a strong writer, then write. If you're a strong photographer, if you like taking photos of yourself, great. Have a great photo of yourself. Plunk an idea into ChatGPT. Let it spit out something in the different storytelling frameworks that you see so often that seem to work. Leverage these AI tools. One AI tool that I now leverage for my clients is called Dripify, and I can send you a link to it
Sure.
afterwards. But that stuff I did with elbow grease before, like adding people to LinkedIn, I had to do it on the couch at a stoplight, having coffee, like before bed all the time. I was a manual robot doing that. But now there's AI tools that can just do it for you, where it's adding connections, endorsing their skills, liking their posts, and messaging them all automatically. So
Wow.
there's literally nothing in your way stopping you from getting 120 new connections per week, which compounds to over 5,000 per year. In 4 years, you've got 20,000 plus LinkedIn connections. And anyone that lands on your profile will think, wow, there's someone,
Yeah. I
right?
love your energy on that. And I love the concept. And I think it's the first person I ever said say it is you're right. So many people think of LinkedIn as someone I just met at a conference I'm connecting with or someone who I already know. And I don't think a lot of people think with that mindset of like, no, go meet new people on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
such great advice.
Yeah, like I'm going to Silicon Valley next week to meet investors. So I have a campaign going of Silicon Valley investors and tech people saying, hey, I'll be in the neighborhood. Would you like to connect for a coffee? Obviously, I can't
Yeah,
meet all of them for coffee, but
right.
maybe I'll get a few fish or a few bites. And actually, one person, I don't know if this is a red flag or not, one person said, yeah, come to my house. My wife and I make amazing smoothies and coffee. from a stranger. Oh my God, you're so
See?
gracious and maybe a little murdery. I'm gonna look up your address, but we'll see.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I agree. People are at the core, we're human, and that human connection and that extra, I think when I always tell young people as I work with them so often, I said, uh, humanize your LinkedIn presence and voice. And they're like, oh, but it's not professional. I'm like, don't go there. That's wrong advice. Professional. What's professional? Humanize it, right? Anyways, I love that energy. Thanks for sharing those tips because those
Yeah.
are super powerful for some of these listeners too to hear and to think differently about it.
Oh, and then in
Um,
terms of like what should
yeah,
I post? Like what content should you post? So
yeah,
you could post stuff about like what you're doing. So I'm at a conference, I'm having coffee with so and so, whatever. If you can highlight other people, be that servant leader and really bring other people up, that is really good juju. Like that is
yeah,
gratitude, that's graciousness, that's currying good favor, right? I like to see it as like a law of reciprocity where if you're, featuring other people on your platform and sharing their story, then they'll feel more close to you and, keep you in mind for a future opportunity. So one of them is like share other people's stories and
yeah,
feature them and like what they're doing in a good way, ideally.
yeah.
And the other is like um a non-basic opinion about your field of expertise. So like don't give me a fence sitting situation. Like pick a side, have an opinion, stand by it, be well researched, but share that uncanny opinion.
Yeah,
And then the other thing is, yeah, be personal. Share it if it's your 40th birthday or your 30th birthday,
I know.
or if you just did something you were really scared to do and you accomplished something. Anything like inspiring like that is really good too.
It's so funny because where we met at the University of Windsor event and talking about that as one of my works with the school, that morning I just decided I'm just going to record I'm here and look at the view and stuff. And I noticed on my LinkedIn that that got probably the most hits in a long time, just sharing that visual video of you being somewhere cool and really being excited about being there. So you're so right on with your ideas. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Um, let's talk a little bit about mentoring and coaching because I know as a certified coach and a startup advisor you're involved in that. I think too, this is something we overthink, mentorship. And I know students and early professionals are always like, well, I can't find the right mentor. I don't know. They sometimes don't even realize they have a mentor. But
Yeah.
what are your thoughts around philosophies on mentorship?
I think that if you're one step ahead of someone else, or if someone's one step ahead of you, that counts.
Yep.
That counts. So that you don't need the gray hairs to prove that you can be a mentor or that you have a mentor. It sure may help, right? But for instance, I have a mentor that is 21 years old and she
Yep.
does insanely good video content editing. And like I can't believe the things she's able to do with editing. And I'm just humbled by her. And I'm like, I could learn so much from you. Please teach me. Like, let's do a swap. We'll trade. I'll show you how to leverage LinkedIn. You show me how to do your video editing skills, right? So I think that you can do sort of trades with people and both get something out of mentorship. It can be a two-way street. And I think really you
Absolutely.
should think about it as like how you can be in service to others and knowing what you want or what you need and not being afraid to ask that of others. It doesn't need to be this, I meet someone every 2 weeks thing. I just happen to have certain people I know I can call. Like I have a friend who's a nurse with like 5 medical degrees, and she's like 20 years older than me. I don't talk to her all the time, but every time there's like an illness thing going on with like me or my kid or my mom or whatever, I'll call her. Jane, what do you think about this? What should we do? Right. And so
Yeah.
like it's just that, like just piece it together, like different experts in different fields and
I
keep
love
the
that.
them.
Yeah, because it's different. Like same like you, like different people, and I have younger, older, same age, whatever. But I don't go to the same people for the same things. Right?
Hmm.
So there's multiple mentors in your life that make a difference. And sometimes, like I said, they're sitting right next to you, but you don't necessarily realize that they're that one step ahead of you and they can actually help you think differently about something. So thanks for
Yeah.
sharing those insights. I really love that. And thinking about entrepreneurship, and I mean, it takes grit. I know many young people glamorize it without seeing the sleepless nights behind it. What's one tough lesson you had to learn as a founder that maybe no one really talks about?
Oh, can't do everything yourself. I think that you need to trust your admin team. You need to give people the grace to fail. And just because you might do something better doesn't mean you need to do it all, because I promise you there's too much to do. You cannot do it all.
Yeah.
And so you might rely on interns or like very inexpensive labor. And that's, yeah, sometimes you get what you pay for in that sense. And there's a learning curve with these things. And you're not perfect if you're just a founder. Like maybe you don't know how to manage people yet either. So I think for me, that was like my biggest failing, was like not being able to fully hand off things to my team or giving them the grace to fail.
Love it. Thank you for sharing such a personal story too. And that really changed your perspective, obviously, and your and openness to share that. I want to jump into comedy because I think one of the things when we first connected too is we even shared a few laughs just getting to know each other more throughout this. And I could see we're going to be laughing a lot in the next little bit as we get to know each other more. But this is so cool to me that you've co-produced and a comedy troupe, and that also I feel helps business. And I always tell leaders that they need to like loosen up a little bit or be funny or do stuff. What's your thought about more leaders tapping into being funny and open and tell us a little bit about your comedy?
Sure. So I am a Capricorn, so I'm always thinking business, but interestingly enough, I thought, hey, if I can make people laugh, that breaks down a barrier, and that makes me more able to influence them and to build a relationship with them and maybe to get them to do what I want eventually.
Yeah,
And maybe that won't come immediately, but it's certainly easier to get through to someone and get them on side. Let's say someone that's very different than you. Maybe someone is a 75-year-old investment banker, and you want them to get you in a room with the pension fund manager of Canada Post or something like that, right?
yeah,
Big ass. I don't have a lot in common with this guy, but if I can get this guy to laugh, and we could have a good belly laugh together, and then I could tell him my idea, he's gonna automatically have his guard down way more. So
yeah,
I did some open mics. I never really felt prepared enough for those. So then I did some comedy classes at Second City and
yeah.
Comedy Bar. And in those comedy classes, you create like a 5, 7, 10 minute set. And then you perform those sets. They give you like a venue to perform those. So you work on those for like a number of weeks, and then like you're definitely prepared. And you learn some of the techniques. Of course, everything has like a recipe or a template in a sense. So um that was it. I just old fashioned way, took some classes. And the sketch comedy troupe arrived because my fiance, he was in the Second City Conservatory and like improv and sketch troupes. So he's more of an actor, and he's
Yeah.
a great comedic actor. And they started a sketch comedy troupe called Trash Panda Comedy. And I do some acting with Trash Panda, but I mostly act as a producer because I find a lot of troupes, when you're trying to get 7 or 8 comedian and actor types together in a consistent way and book shows and book rehearsals and have props, and like it's a whole business. So
Yeah, I
I
can
was
imagine.
able to use my business brain towards comedy, and that created a more lasting and impactful sketch comedy troupe. We were featured in Sketchfest this year, which
Nice.
is a 20-year running festival, and like it's almost unheard of that a troupe that was formed in less than a year would be at that level already. But it's because we put the reps in and we meant business. So we have some incredible actors. It's all original work. But I think, yeah, it was a mixture of just like the old fashioned like training
Yeah,
and that structure there, plus having a business mind and leveraging that business mind to comedy.
amazing. What a cool twist. I actually know another guy who went through the Second City program. And even I think like he mentioned to me is like for him, it was also helpful for him with his keynotes.
Mhm.
Great to practice being in front of people. So it's amazing what those transferable skills that can come out of those experiences.
Yeah, and a lot of people say like with artificial intelligence, all this white collar work in terms of the writing
Yeah.
is sort of spoken for. Obviously, you still need a supervisor, you need a critical eye, there's prone to hallucination, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But storytelling and sales will still firmly be in the realm of humans.
Okay.
And if you are to put your eggs in any basket, put it into the storytelling and communication basket, please.
That is like that's a drop the mic moment. I mean, that is such a good piece of advice because I think people are struggling with that AI component and just what you said. If you tell a story, you'll remember that story just aligned to that person,
Mhm.
right? Forever. Wow, this has been such an incredible, energized. I knew it was going to be fun time. You've shown us that leadership doesn't always have to wear a suit, success doesn't always follow a straight line, and disruption can be delightful. I want to thank you so very, very much for being a part of my Coffee with Convery podcast. It's been a pleasure. I think our audience will get to see you and see this episode, and you'll probably get even more followers on LinkedIn and probably a few reaching out for questions if that's okay.
I would love that. I invite anyone to reach out. I'm happy to chat. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you. So, for our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and follow us on coffeewithconvery.com. And you can also catch us on Instagram with all of our updates, insights, and ideas as well. This is Coffee with Convery, where we show you that success isn't always about climbing the ladder. Sometimes it's about building your own jungle gym to success.